Friendly greetings! I'm Torley Linden. I do videos, multimedia art, and watermelons in Second Life. And I love showing off the work we do at Linden Lab to benefit our community. You are most absolutely listening to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley.
Hello there and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley. My name is Draxter Dupre. I'm here again with Joe Yardley, 1920s Berlin. Hi Joe, welcome back. We missed you last week.
Yeah, I wasn't gone. I was just being sick.
Yes, but you know what you are guilty of more than infecting others with the flu? Infecting me with this British TV presenter and writer Charlie Brooker. This has nothing to do with Second Life or Virtual World.
Let me correct you there really quickly. He is a very active gamer, and he made one fantastic show just about the history of computer games, defending them and showing them that they can be quite artful and intelligent.
And he also did a show called The Black Mirror, which is now on Netflix here in the US. And this is also has a large virtual reality component. Just before listeners turn off the show and go like, what the hell, I want to hear about Second Life, I want to hear about the metaverse. Charlie Brooker did a bunch of shows that you should watch. It's a great satiric take on media culture, on TV, entertainment, the news business.
On everything.
There's various shows in that Wipe series, Screen Wipe, News Wipe, how TV ruined your life. He did a segment, the Daily Mail Island, where people go to an island and all their news intake is done by the Daily Mail and they completely devolve into sort of savages.
He makes some fantastic television that sort of makes you think. And I'm not a big follower of modern media and movie stars and things like that. So I watch Charlie Brooker and I think, thank you. Now the insanity of modern life makes sort of sense again.
When I see what he sort of dissects, how he dissects British television, it's almost equally insane what British television has in terms of formats, of reality TV. And I always thought, the US is pretty bad, but the British have some crazy stuff. So anyway, bringing this back to virtual reality, guys, get the Black Mirror. It's on YouTube. Those are hour-long individual episodes, a little bit like the Twilight Zone, very, very dark, but really kind of like 10, 15 minutes into the future. I mean, we're so close to some of these dystopian scenarios that he depicts with contact lenses that record your entire life, with implants, with virtual reality cubes where you live in, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, there's one where you have the reality option of actually muting people, which is, I think, everyone in Second Life at least once has said, I wish I could do this in real life.
This is one of the episodes in the Black Mirror where you mute people and then people just show up sort of as sort of grayish shadows that you cannot talk to, and you're trying to talk to them, and it's about this man who wants to interact with his daughter, but his ex-wife muted him so he cannot interact and he can't even see his daughter growing up. He can go near her, but then he just sees this shadow. It's really
good.
Yeah.
Trust us, you want to go and Google Charlie Brooker.
Okay. Well, thank you, Torley Linden, for the station ID. By the way, we're negotiating in terms of scheduling with a bunch of old B. Lindens at the moment to get some in-depth interviews with them, and Torley is one of them, so stay tuned for these upcoming shows. There's a lot of stuff coming up, but we do also need your help. And at my Res Day party last week, I threw out the invitation to come on board with telling us your origin story. How did you come into Second Life? Why are you here? Why are you staying? These kind of things. You can call us. You can send us an email. You can leave a voicemail, or you can just send us an MP3, just ramble a little bit for a few minutes and we piece it together. On the show today, Priscilla, aka Silly Avro, an elementary school teacher that came into Second Life. She's going to tell us her origin story. She came during the hype days as an educator and stuck around for her own enjoyment when all the educators left. We had a long conversation. She has a great perspective from the front lines of digital learning, the pros, the cons. We talk about the obsession of school administrators with data to help with, quote unquote, accountability. And yes, all that is also relevant to you, the listener, because we're moving into a world where VR in learning will be ubiquitous. We're also fast approaching the Virtual World's Best Practice of Education conference in March. Linden Lab has put the word out to educators to share their stories and how they use Second Life in a learning context. So, apparently a virtual world is not only good for buying clothes and dancing, but we know that and we talk about it all the time. We'll report straight from the Virtual World Best Practice of Education conference in March between the 18th and the 21st, and we'll have guests on the show as well that are speaking there. We spoke to many educators in the past. Let me just say that we're going to link to some of these shows that have an educational context to give you the context with the show today. You know that you get in touch with us, as I just said. Email, Skype, Avatar Drax Files. You can become a sponsor. You can become an individual supporter by taking out a voluntary subscription. I have 2 more Leap Motions to give away, by the way, in the United States only, unfortunately, because Leap is footing the bill for shipping and they don't ship internationally.
If you ship something across the world these days, it costs you an arm and a leg. I just sent a 1920s leather jacket to a friend of mine in England. That's like across the water. It would have been cheaper if I swam it.
In terms of winning the Leap Motion, here's what you're going to do, please, listener. I want to hear your stories, just like Linden Lab does, about involving education in the SL context. But I want stories that are a little bit more than just sort of your normal replica of the campus and then holding virtual lectures. If you have a good story, send it in for the chance to win a Leap Motion. Then I'll draw those names from a hat. We have 2 Leap Motions to give away before we get a new shipment from Leap Motion with the new stuff. And we're going to talk with David Holtz in a few weeks about what is coming up with Leap, and we'll all get a glimpse at the new devices that are coming up. So anyway, send your story in about educational uses of Second Life. Let's move to news. TechCrunch has an article about High Fidelity raising $11 million for deployable worlds.
Don't get your panties in a twist, or whatever they say in America.
The article mentions the business plan. Philip Rosedale is talking about charging for domains. I actually secured 2 domains, or islands, if you will.
How much are they? Can we say that?
I'm not sure, because we're both alpha testers. I'm not sure if we should say that, because it's not public how much they will charge. It's quite reasonable along the range of securing a domain for a website. So I have Dragster and Drax Files Islands. There's nothing on there. If you are an alpha tester, you can visit. The article also mentions that Philip Rose is planning to have ads integrated into the virtual experience.
With all due respect, that is the massive, massive load of nonsense, of course, because it completely depends on what your virtual reality is. I'm mightily impressed if High Fidelity can make money by putting 1920s advertisements in my sim, because I'm not going to allow any other kind of advertising.
No, I understand. So this is basically really integrated also in your theme of role-playing and time travel. But it's unclear from the article if that may be on the horizon as well, because Philip Rose also says that there might be advertisement for content that is made within the virtual world. So in your context, obviously you have Sonata Morales, you have so many great creators on your sim that they could advertise as well.
Yeah, but I don't want that either. I want 1920s advertisements. And if any of the shopkeepers in my sim want to put a billboard in the middle of Unter den Linden, it will have to be a 1920s perfectly reproduced poster that fits the theme, that that doesn't clash. And if you use pretty much any other kind of picture from Marketplace or for what High Fidelity seems to think is 1920s, I might not be happy with that at all, because 90% of all 1920s dresses for sale on Marketplace at the moment are not 1920s at all. So if I one way or another, you are putting something in someone else, their sim, and there are chances that people are not going to like that.
A very good point. I can foresee a scenario where you have an ad-free environment where you can purchase an island through High Fidelity and have it ad-free and just pay more money.
Yeah, I can see it work, because if you've got a regular urban modern setting, of course a Coca-Cola billboard will look fine wouldn't be a problem. But sims are so personal, these places. They are so individual that I can also see quite a few sims where people say, I really don't want this.
And we also know from the history of Second Life is that the Second Life crowd, and I'm painting with a broad brush, but broadly speaking, the Second Life crowd is not very open to corporate influx.
You get these annoying hippie broadcasters who've got issues with Coca-Cola or something, you know?
What is funny about the article also, I think, is it's because it clumsily describes virtual worlds. It's really interesting. I mean, it's on TechCrunch, but there's, and I'm quoting the sentence, each space in high fidelity is essentially a small video game world filled with the same 3D models you'd build for a game built with Unity. Now, I understand when you describe to your mom or to people who are not sort of the uninitiated about virtual worlds, that this is a legitimate way to kind of describe something that is extremely abstract to people. But I don't know, we've been in Second Life for 11 years and this is TechCrunch, right? I mean, it's just a weird way of writing it. I'm sorry, I'm nitpicking. I also wanted to say that, and I want to get your take on it. What do you think does it mean? The fact that we know is that Linden Lab is an investor in High Fidelity. What do you think is their relationship? Will they merge at some point? Is High Fidelity SL 2.0, is it the same thing? What do these CEOs, you think, strategize about? How are they planning to carve up the market amongst them, right, without creating a competition for themselves and stepping on each other product-wise?
Recently, Ebbe said that he hadn't spoken to the hi-fi guys for quite a while. There was a moment where they were really talking, and I think that moment sort of passed. They are still connected. I think they still talk now and then, but they are going their own way. I think that when they have certain issues or problems, that they perhaps share solutions. But I think that they are just keeping these back doors open just in case. And I think maybe in 5 or 10 years, when High Fidelity and Second Life 2.0 are both going their own way and are doing okay, but then suddenly Facebook world becomes much bigger, maybe they then decide, let's go together because then we're stronger. But so the option is always there, and it probably will always be there because the strong history we share. But if Second Life is going, Second Life 2 is going to go big, and High Fidelity is going to slowly vanish into forgetfulness, then nothing's going to happen, or the other way around. So it's it is very interesting, but I think that at this moment, at this stage, there is no chance of them actually becoming one.
I wanted to say that I'm in talks with Chris Collins from High Fidelity to come up and do sort of an in-depth look at their lab up in San Francisco, and that is to be scheduled still. So I'm excited about that. But on the other hand, I haven't been in High Fidelity as an alpha tester for quite a while, and I don't even have a good-looking avatar in there. It's interesting. People are very gung-ho about it, but I have to say that it's fairly cumbersome to get around, and you got to get that third-party application from Mixamo to get an avatar. You need to outsource the facial recognition works, but that's also outsourced to FaceShift, which costs money. So I don't want to knock it. I mean, they're doing tremendous strides forward, but
it's not basic enough for you for simple people like us, you mean?
No, I think people complain about the Second Life user interface all the time, but I don't see a strong improvement, actually, to be quite honest with you, with the High Fidelity user interface. And when I get Philip in front of my microphone, I will ask him that same question. Sure, he has been demoing on the TechCrunch article. He's been demoing, picking up objects with the Razer Hydra. And, that's all awesome. You strap on the Razer Hydra and you pick up objects. But beyond that, I'm sorry. I mean, it's not there yet. I hope it will get there, and I hope to see that technology spill over into SL and SL 2.0. And I hope everybody gets along and everybody will join forces to smash Face World, as you said. Must smash things, must smash Face World.
I hope that in the future, the least that we can expect is some sort of connection between the two, perhaps even the option to travel from one world to another without having to change viewers or do complicated stuff.
But I don't know why we would want to do that either, because, and here's Philip's been on the record in his own blog posts and around the media, sharing his ideas about deploying these basically, and that's why the article says deployable worlds, that they run locally on machines, and all these machines are interconnected. So, arguably he is looking at the metaverse, at the metaverse where all the machines are connected, and I think we have to take that seriously, that it's almost the deja vu of building the 3D internet, if you will, with this concept. So an avatar runs on a cell phone, a computer that is sitting there sort of not being used but still connected is simulating a world and all that stuff.
It is a great idea. I mean, the setup behind high fidelity is really brilliant. Having all these computers run it instead of a bunch of servers somewhere in a basement. I really like that idea. Nevertheless, we still got all these other things as well. So we'll have to go and see how it actually works, because even if you can run it on computers all over the world and have this massive computing power, it's not going to work if the world that you're offering is not very interesting.
Anyway, shout out to Loki Elliott, who is our friend and also sponsor of this radio program. He's created stuff in high fidelity, and he always showers me with links and ideas. And he has recently created in Second Life not only a line of new mesh clothes. This is not an advertisement, by the way. I just want to throw this out, how vibrant content creation in Second Life obviously still is. He also created an awesome anime avatar. We link to it on the blog. You got to look at it. I mean, Second Life is still and will be for the foreseeable future, no doubt, the place where your imagination is running free. I mean, look at what Loki is creating here, and he's an alpha tester in high fidelity as well. I just want to say.
Yeah, he makes amazing things, but but he's been making amazing things for years. I mean, I think he has got talents.
So I'm going to skip over all these other news items because we simply don't have the time, and I don't want to cut Silly's interview short. We have a whole bunch here about an experiment in Barcelona with Mel Slater that we're going to talk about next time. Virtual Environments Lab for Neuroscience, fascinating stuff. We have virtual money that we want to talk about. We mentioned, and we linked to it on the blog, that Linden Lab is looking for educators and stories of educational success. So are we, and we're giving away a Leap Motion. Huh, Linden Lab? Take that. You don't have any Leap Motions to give away. Sorry.
They could give stuff away, but they don't. We have to talk about their prizes. When they have contests and things like that, ooh, you can win $40. Ooh.
I know what you're saying. I mean, it has to be compensated in a realistic way. When we look at the University of Western Australia, we talked with JJ, they give away a lot more prize money.
It could be like a grown-up amount, even $100. That would be, at least that wouldn't sound so crappy like 40. At least that would sound like a big deal, even if it still wasn't.
Listeners, what do you think about prize money? Before we go to our conversation with Silly Avro, a new feature of the show, the musical interlude, we proved that SL musicians are awesome, some of them at least. Here's one of my favorite SL musicians, Mama Love Sky Tower. I love me some Mama Love. Mama Love Sky Tower, and this tune was performed live in Second Life. It's called Moon. Here's Mama Love.
Show me, baby, how you make things hot. So come on, baby, hit that spot and show me what you got. Because I just fell from the moon, and I've been looking for someone just like you.
So that was Mama Love Sky Tower with a song called Moon. Now on to our interview with Silly Avro. Silly teaches kids in the Inland Empire region of California, that is San Bernardino, Riverside counties, east of LA. Big agricultural area with a lot of suburban sprawl, very heterogeneous population with lots of immigrants, lots of conservative whites also mixed in. And you're asking yourself right now, why, Drax, are you interviewing an elementary school teacher on a show about the metaverse? Well, in our ongoing quest to understand what drives people in Second Life, in addition to illuminating the history and the potential of this world, I think this conversation is very important. Silly came into Second Life as an educator, and she stuck around to explore and do her own thing. As interest in the educational community waned, we talked a lot, slightly off topic, about digital tools in the classroom and their validity. Especially for folks who love gamification education, they should listen quite carefully. Anyways, enjoy the conversation. Let us know what you think on the points raised. Here is Silly with her origin story. And again, we want origin stories. Send them in. Here's Silly about how she got into Second Life. And yes, it has to do with teachers on a cruise ship.
I was on a cruise at the time, my one and only cruise in life.
On a cruise? You know what? Teachers always complain they don't make enough money, and then they're on cruises.
It gets better. It gets better. It was a free cruise, the Discovery Educator Network Summer Institute, from Florida to the Bahamas. On that cruise, they actually logged in to SL when they were making the presentation. They were basically doing like a tech tool kind of Web 2.0, just like a show and tell. And there were some teachers there that presented Second Life, and they logged in from the boat. We were in the middle of the ocean. I was looking at this going, what is that? Like, how does that have any educational bearing? We're both elementary teachers. And so I didn't recognize at the time. So this was July 2007.
Your first sort of impression was, what does this have to do with education?
Exactly. I think for me, I always think about it in terms of my students, which I've taught from 2nd to 5th grade. And so when I think about that age group, I just didn't see them having the ability to do that. And at the time when it was presented to us, I didn't realize that there were any restrictions. Like at the time, the teen grid still existed, but I didn't realize what, just like with Facebook and all these others, whether you have to be 13 or 18 or whatever to use it, I figured there might be something like that. And then to me, it just seemed too complex.
Right. So this was merely just the complexity for your specific group of
And
kids.
I didn't see the direct application to education. And okay, so once we're in there, what do we do? So I didn't really understand at the time when it was presented, even though I'm sure they said this, was just how open it was.
This is really the biggest problem of presenting Second Life, that they look at this and they go, how is it applicable to what I do? And then when it's presented, when it's presenting something specific and that is not applicable to me, then you dismiss the whole thing.
Right. And so I had been to a few conferences by this point in time, because I became part of the Discovery Educator Network in 2005, I believe.
What is the Discovery Educator Network, if you could define it?
It's basically a large online and in-person network of educators, videos online, content online you could use with your lessons. It is a subscription. So usually districts pay for it for the entire district. I'm sure they have their methods for evaluating what content makes it there. I mean, even the community can add content. So teachers can add content. And it's flagged that way, that it's added by an educator.
Okay, so you were at a cruise. Your immediate response was, this is not applicable to my age group of kids. How did you then investigate further after your well-deserved 8-week vacation?
You can get overwhelmed easily. But I remember with this particular case from the cruise, I had a folder. So I remember looking at it going, oh yeah, I remember that. Let me finally go look at that. So I went in to look at it, and I was intrigued. I still didn't believe there was really any educational connection here, but it was something I wanted to investigate because I was just that curious. So I went through the avatars still had last names, so I was picking last names and first names, and the orientation islands and stuff. That didn't exist for me. Like I rezzed in to, I don't know what Brazilian info hub. Nobody spoke English. Everybody looked like me. I was the girl next door. And there was like a whole bunch of girl next doors. And then then there was like a few of us created like a clique of girl next doors that spoke English. And we were trying to figure out how to get off this Brazilian island.
It's really like the Twilight Zone. You're completely stuck or like lost.
I didn't know how to escape, but I wouldn't let it go either. I was like, this cannot be that hard. So, I get very fixated like that. So I finally figured out that, the search icon is pretty universal, right? So you click that, and then I just like, okay, Discovery is the reason I'm here, so let me search Discovery. There's an in-world group that still exists and not very active anymore, but it still existed. And I figured out how to get into it, and I group IM'd. And I said, hello, I'm new here, someone help me. And then I remember Chloe Greenwood, to this day, was the one that responded. She got in my IMs. She teleported me to Discovery's in-world headquarters, and the learning began.
I really love these origin stories. Everybody I speak to, they have one or two, sometimes two names of people who helped them. With me, I remember Gwyneth Llewellyn, but I also remember New Citizens Incorporated, which was kind of a citizens-run place. But let's stick with this educational thing. So what were they doing at the time in education? How did they use it, and how did you interact with them? Did you attempt to utilize it then once you knew more what it could do?
At the time, they were doing lots of like meet and greets, and it seemed to be more of an extension of networking. So it was, you usually do that at a conference, but now it was virtually. So now we're virtually meeting and networking. Discovery would host presentations, topics. Other teachers would come in and present on things they were using, and it was more of the same. So it was like the sharing out that I had seen on the boat, but now done in a virtual environment.
Now, I'm sure a few listeners will write hate mail, but what you're describing now, my biggest criticism with the educational community today is that not a lot have gone beyond using Second Life or virtual worlds as sort of a virtual social networking place with PowerPoint. And there is so much more possible. What did you think at the time? Did you think this was sort of adequately used, or did you think maybe more could be done, or how did it progress for you?
I was active with Discovery and SL for a couple of years, and then to me it seemed like exactly what you were saying, that it's kind of been there, done that. There seems like there should be more. We're not really doing much more than sharing sessions and socializing. And they would have their little dances and everything. And so it seemed more like just where you would come to kind of, unwind or just chat.
I have to say this very clearly. There's absolutely nothing wrong with obviously networking and sharing experiences from the classroom within the teacher community. That can be empowering, and it can be powerful when you learn from a teacher that they have the same problems, and maybe how did they kind of go about solving them, and they're from halfway around the country, maybe the world. That's a completely legitimate use. But if we want to change anything, we need to put the finger a little bit where it hurts, right?
Okay, we've talked, again, even in your past interviews that I've listened to, you were talking about somebody who hadn't made any updates. They're being critical of SL, and then they haven't made any updates to their own sim in however many years. Here it is. I left them in about 2009. Here it is, 2015. I've started coming back now. Discovery Education really isn't present in SL anymore, but ISTE is. And so I would stay active. I've made some connections. Some of the same people are still there, which is awesome. But a lot of times their avatars even look the way they did in 2007, and the settings look the way they did in 2007. It's like I'm in a time warp, like time never passed.
So it's a lack of initiative maybe, or what do you think?
But I don't know how much really the mainstream educational community is willing to accept gamification of education.
Yeah.
So, and that's really where I think SL falls in. It's gamification, even though, it's not like a structured type thing like, World of Warcraft might be, because I know there's a lot of teachers who are doing stuff with World of Warcraft, though the specifics of it, it's not an area that I looked into. I know there's a lot of teachers using Minecraft, which is like a really, to me, there's a lot more in common with Minecraft and SL.
But why is it not gamification if they use an iPad application where they have to do math, and then when they do the math, then they get points, and then they go shopping? This is something that I hate so deeply, that connection with doing those math exercises. I don't know what the program is called, but they do it here at the district. They have software where you do these math drills, you complete them, then you get points, and then your little avatar goes to a shopping center and you can buy yourself a hat and pants. I find that highly problematic. That, to me, is the problematic side of gamification. SL is not, because SL is sort of unleashing the creativity versus connecting learning with shopping.
Yeah, for sure. I know we have programs like that. Like there's one we use that's called Planet Turtle, which is a similar type idea where they're completing activities and earning points and trophies and unlocking things, and so there's definitely that. But I think for some reason that's more acceptable than something that looks more like your traditional game, like gaming game.
Why is this across the board accepted, and why is something like Second Life not accepted? What do you think?
It could be in part that educators, while there are several that are more on the forefront of things, I think the majority, the population of educators, the larger part of the population is probably more slow to accept innovations and new ideas. There's a lot, educators have to deal with a lot of like paradigm shifts.
And then they get to push the Common Core down their throat, and then they have to adapt real quickly.
There's a lot that we have to deal with. And like I've said before, there's such an overwhelming amount of information and tools that we can use, and we can only learn and master so much. With some educators, especially older ones, and I'm not trying to be like ageist or anything, but I'm speaking my truth here on this one. I'm not saying that older educators are unwilling. It just can be more of a challenge for them. As teachers, we have to adapt to not only, like I said, everything I've already mentioned, but our students themselves and how they learn. We have to be very aware of their learning styles. There's multiple intelligences, and what's the best way we can reach them. And some teachers just aren't completely on the technology bandwagon. I mean, I still see negative comments posted about using technology in the classroom and that it's more of a detriment than, something that can enhance the experience.
I think the discussion is not very nuanced often in the public. Like you just mentioned, there are statements of people blanketly technology should not be in the classroom at all, versus, let's just do tech all the way and let's get rid of all paper, and the pen and the paper are evil, let's do everything electronically. So these extremes. But when we're comparing a simple math automated thing that you can give the kids and it keeps them quiet for 30 minutes, and at the end of the 30 minutes you have quantifiable data, they either did those drills correctly or they didn't. Mm-hmm. I think that is the crux here. That is actually something that is quantifiable, and there is a return on investment. So you use half hour, and at the end you come out with a spreadsheet that shows this kid did it, this kid didn't. With something like Second Life, when we do something which is more open-ended, I could imagine you could do a physics class with prims quite easily. You have the kids play around with prims, fall from the sky, then change the parameters to rubber and see what happens if it's wood versus rubber. I think there is tremendous value in it, but I would guess that a lot of administrators would say, well, yeah, but where's the data that I can quantify and then get the money from the state?
You've hit the nail on the head. The programs that are pushed or encouraged for us to use, I retract push, but encouraged,
I see,
are completely data-driven. So, for example, there's one we're using now called Lexia that was highly recommended by our principal. And our principal's a wonderful woman. She is not, like crazy taskmaster. And I'm not just saying that because I'm not looking for hate mail from her either. But this program is a language arts program that what I like about it is that it responds to the student. So it's not just your blanket drill and kill. It responds to their ability level. And then you get this report. You can check on them constantly. You can see what level they're working at, where they're struggling. It'll even give you suggestions on lessons, mini lessons you can do to help them. It's programs like that that are very popular right now. And we can print all kinds of reports from them. We can analyze the student every which way. We can use it, in their case when we have to make special interventions for a child or recommend them for special education, things like that. We have to have the data. It's so data driven. So you're completely right. When you have something like SL that's completely open and there's no task to, although like you said, the teachers can create whatever they need to, it's more of a kind of a rubric type situation where are they meeting the objectives? I mean, and I could see that if you start tying it, and you have to tie it to objectives and standards, and what are you evaluating and how are you evaluating it, and then provide the documentation, like I said, especially through a rubric, then you have something like data that you can present to administrators as far as why this program has value. Something like that compared to these awesome automated reports you can get from Lexia. Administrators are still much more on the side of look at these awesome reports, but they're all drill and practice. And that's not the only way to use technology.
Thank you for saying that. We agree on that one. There has to be, I think, a measured and balanced approach. You're working in a district that is socioeconomically is probably a lot more problems in your district than mine. I mean, what could you benefit from most? Wouldn't it be smaller class sizes, you think?
Yes, definitely. I have 31 students presently.
That's insane.
31 9-year-olds.
Class sizes matter, right?
Yeah, they do. I have no argument with that. I completely agree with you. So I've worked at the poorer schools in the same district, and I'm working at a school that's a bit better off right now. But even the fact that it's a better school, its technology is lagging behind terribly. I have 2 computers in my classroom. We have one computer lab that's most often shut down with online testing. So there's a progress kind of test we give 3 times a year, and then there's now the new state testing, which is online. So we don't get into the lab as much as we should. There's a second lab that's going in, but we're one of the last schools in the district. I believe there's like 32 or 34 elementary schools in my district, and we're one of the last ones to get the second computer lab. I have 6 tablets. They're all mine. And it's, just over time, just bringing them in. I have an older, like a second generation iPad. I borrow my son's mini. I have a Samsung tablet because I was trying to teach myself how to use Android, and it's just a lot of that. So I have these tablets that I use in the room, and I have my own hotspot because the district's network is closed. It's not a bring your own device district, so we can't even do that. Teachers choose to pay for what they will. Some teachers will pay for the extra art supplies or the extra playground equipment or whatever to bring into the classroom. I choose to pay for the extra technology because I believe in it that much. And I don't want my kids just doing the drill and kill stuff over and over and over, which is they spend a lot of their day doing that. And so I'm trying to show my kids as much as I can that there are other things to do with this besides do your Lexia over and over and over. And so I was starting to use SoundCloud a little bit and show them how to do podcasting. And then right now they're typing their workouts. So keyboarding skills, are very important. So I'm having them type some essays. We're doing some projects for Black History Month. And I just have them, coming, kind of taking turns. And I have them saving to my Google Drive so that I can, just show, I can print this anywhere. I can do anything to it. I can access it from anywhere. And, that's another conversation. I want to be able to show them this is why. And as I'm doing this with them, it's all kind of a one-on-one. I can't do this. I can't show it to, on screen and then have 31 kids and expect them to listen and retain it. So, I have them all kind of doing their individual task, and then I'm working with one. I've had parents tell me that they want their kids in my class because I use technology. Mm-hmm. And they want that. They want their kids to understand how to use technology better, and that it's not just for playing YouTube or playing their game, but that there's things that you can do with technology to support your education.
If these parents knew that you were a virtual model, they were going, no.
Yeah, I know, right? Actually, some of them do. So, and that's because, and that kind of brings me around to one of my other topics was, yeah, I know your whole movement about coming out of the virtual closet. And I think I may have told you, and as you know, because I did my side-by-side pictures and everything, that, I have finally come out on Silly Avro as, who I really am.
I think that's great. It's a sea change in the culture now.
Yeah. But, honestly, to say it was kind of Facebook that kind of gave me that last push when they shut down my Silly Avro Facebook account. And for a while, I sat there. I think it was probably 2 to 4 weeks. And I said, Facebook's not going to out me. I want my anonymity, so I'm going to keep it. So then as I went on, I was like, I don't like this. I was like, I want to be able to interact with my SL friends. I felt like, I've known people long enough. I can trust them with this information. I'm not worried they're going to come stalk me or, look to hurt my family or anything. I have no qualms about them knowing that, and, I am a virtual model. And, one of my proudest accomplishments was being in a virtual pageant where I got to represent my ethnicity, the fact that I'm Puerto Rican. I was Miss Virtual Puerto Rico. That was huge for me.
That is huge. I need photos for the blog about all that.
Because of being a model, I've learned to blog better. I've learned to use my social media better. I've learned Photoshop. I think I may have mentioned to you, I'm involved with a photography institute in World called Visionaire. And I did a write-up of them for my grad class because my grad class, I think it's very appropriate that my class in educational technology is online. That makes a lot of sense. I have a lot of frustration with this class because it's very boring. It's a message board. And I have written, anytime I can turn my assignments around to why doing it in SL would be better, I do. Because
So let me get this straight. So you're pursuing your second master's in educational technology. It is online, and they do it like you could have been doing it in 1995, 6, and you're basically taking any assignment where there is a slightest chance where you can kind of weave in what's possible in SL, you do it.
I do. The requirement for the degree is an online portfolio, and so they have signature assignments. 2 of the 5, I think, have been about SL. Signature assignments that I would take out as a portfolio and show. This is what you can do with a virtual environment. And look how good SL looks. It doesn't look, like your 2007, because I'm taking good pictures. I'm taking good pictures of what people have done, what can be done, locations in SL, what avatars look like, and how much you can do there. My most recent one, I did a project taking your traditional components and how they could be enhanced in the distance learning environment. One of my biggest complaints are these learning management systems, LMSs as they're called, and how flat they are, how two-dimensional. And so they're, like I said, they're message boards with forums. And half the time, or at least in the one I'm on, they don't even alert you when somebody has responded to you, which I think is a basic functionality. Why do I have to go in there and fish around for who responded to me? One of the big topics in traditional education versus distance education or online learning is you can't just take the traditional classroom and drop it into an online situation. That's a big statement that's often made. Okay, I understand that. It doesn't work the same. You're not dealing with people who are really, physically present, but you can be in a virtual environment and recreate a lot of that so you don't have as much of the disconnect. And that's what I keep bringing up. I don't want to disconnect from my online class, but a lot of times I do because I have no real connection to these people whatsoever. They are text on a screen.
So even though it would be extremely limited, and like we started this conversation, maybe even a little bit, 2007 to just recreate a classroom where the avatars sit, it's still a familiar environment that helps you kind of acclimate to this environment, and you have a sense of presence, and every person in the classroom could represent themselves visually, where you get visual cues, where you feel present versus looking around I can't believe it, in a message board where people are text and not people.
There's no draw there. I log in because I have to, and I have to complete my assignments. It's been a very eye-opening experience, which has also been, like I said, largely frustrating. And when I look around at the other online programs, because I thought, I can't take this. I need a more dynamic class. I look around and I read descriptions of other ones, and like, we've got this great learning management system and message boards, and I'm like,
but look,
seriously?
But you have a tremendous opportunity. I think you hinted at it yourself. But what I see is here that you are, and I think, did you say this, Ambassador? To me right now, you doing this, and with all your knowledge what's possible in SL, you're the number one ambassador. You can single-handedly revolutionize
Oh, yes.
and bury the message boards once and for all.
Oh, man, that would be a dream. Even like I said, I would learn Minecraft if they would let me use that with students and teach with it. I'm excited about new positions and new opportunities and teaching older kids and being able to do it with virtual environments. Like, I know there are other teachers out there that are as open-minded and forward-thinking as I am, not to say the ones I work with now are like closed-minded and backward-thinking.
You already said that you don't have you have come out of the virtual closet. I want to say for the record that my position is, I think it's very much an individual decision. What is your position on this identity, or what do you see this empowering identity exploration? Could that have any value in the classroom? I mean, it's often cited that some people who are very shy, when they have an avatar and they can represent themselves, some barriers just fall by the wayside.
Yeah, I believe in this firmly. I recently did something with my students where I allowed them to create an avatar. And it's because I try and publish my students' work on my website. And then, there's privacy issues. So I can't, post last names. I can't post their faces. And I said, you know what? I really want to have something that represents you when I post your work. I had my whole class take turns. I had 3 of my iPads. It was a station. We were doing our other work, and I'm, okay, so-and-so, are you ready to make your avatar? Yes. I had given them the orientation on how to do it. And then I thought they would take forever over there. No, they're picking, I like this app because it had so many different options, skin color, face shape, everything about it. And it was just the head. And it was interesting to see how they represented themselves.
Okay, so you're the educator. I'm just sort of playing a journalist in Second Life. You have pedagogical knowledge that I don't. But my question is, I think this is awesome what you're doing, but don't you think, is it too much paint by numbers?
Well, I definitely tried to give them as many options as possible. Like I said, one of mine was a zombie. Another one was an alien. Some who were Asian, it was interesting, who were Asian portrayed themselves as white. Some that were white were black. And it's just and then they had like professions. Like, they had a few police officers, and then so there was a lot of options in this app. So I didn't want to. I get what you mean now by painting by numbers. So they didn't have complete freedom to maybe create something they wanted their avatar to wear, but it was a start. In my opinion, it was a start, and I wanted to represent them in a virtual way.
The reason why I brought up, because I was reminded in third grade, and it was the parents-teacher conference, and they displayed it as, I think the administrators told them, the parents are coming in, we got to show them that we're like really technology savvy. And so they had like drag and drop. You could create like a diner. It was drag and drop, and at that time, my son had already helped me with machinima, and he had created different characters that we used for making machinima. Which, by the way, this could be awesome in school too, right? They could make machinima. But I'm just thinking that's why I was using paint by numbers, because when I came in and I go like, you know what, these kids are completely capable of doing more than just dragging a burger from the left column onto the table.
Yeah, well, it's definitely, I make a correlation between writing and even like using technology. Students need to be given the opportunity to express themselves and to explore. And a thing that they've noticed with writing is if they're not given time as young children to write, the desire to write as they get older evaporates. And getting them to write later is much harder. It's the same thing with technology. So let's give them the tools to create and express themselves so they can get better at it as they get older, so you don't see that drop off that you were talking about.
The state of affairs right now of education, the virtual world's best practices of education is coming up. What is your personal sense of the state of affairs in education in Second Life right now? Is it not really alive? Is it zombie-ish?
Well, to be fair,
dormant? You're not really in there. I know you're busy with modeling. I know I'm not.
I'm not really in there the way that maybe some are, but I'm getting notices of things. But they're usually some dance for this, or a chat hour where they share some projects that, like I was saying, that looked a little like needed to be updated. But I love what they were doing. They just need to have some better PR for it, and an occasional virtual field trip.
Maybe somebody needs to connect these educators to content makers. That's what I was thinking, like linking them up somehow on On a message board? No, but educators with ideas, but not the skills, hook them up with the scripters, with the content creators to create environments that are interactive and do something more than a virtual PowerPoint.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a lot of strong players in the educational field in SL. Like I said, some of these people who I've met and remembered from 2007 who are still here and active, that these are the people that have more extensive networks that could get the information out. So I feel like I am connected to the right people, but I'm still not seeing a lot of variety in what educators are doing in SL.
So that was Silly Avro. We're linking to her real-life classroom resources as well as her Second Life blog. Very interesting thoughts on education in Second Life and out. If you're a designer, by the way, and need to hire a pro model in Second Life, she's your gal. We're at the end of the show, Joe. What have we forgotten? What are you doing over the weekend?
Well, I'm going to Metamorphosis, a sim installation by Beck Janus, one of Berlin visitors, and it's about Escher.
MC Escher.
That's the one. A very famous Dutch graphic artist sort of person, and he makes fantastic things, or used to make, in the 1920s and 30s, and it's very exciting. I'm looking forward to visiting that.
Stairs that go down and up at the same time.
Which, to be honest, all stairs go up and down at the same time.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, it's hard to explain on the radio what Escher is. He drew also very intricate, super realistic pencil drawings of reflections in mirrors and curved surfaces. I always assume that people know who he is. We have several books lying around here that I look at almost on a daily basis, but I always run into people that come over the house, they look at the book and say, who is this guy? And then I go like, what? You don't know who Escher is? He changed everything. So go into Second Life, because arguably Second Life is the only place where Escher can come alive. Here is a 3D space where you can actually make it real.
Or appear to be.
Ooh, now you're getting all metaphysical on me. Joe, also, we've been mentioning making videos in order to sort of kill the negative perception out there slowly, step by step, Chinese water torture style. Reverse the perception of Second Life into something positive. And we were talking about this, how these videos should be, length, maybe style.
Well, we've been talking for this for a while, and it may be catching on. I've heard a few stories about video clips popping up. But in short, I think it might be a nice idea to start making more video clips again, like we used to in Second Life. Just get a musical number. It can be famous. It can be an old music. It can be from a Second Life artist, which would be even better, of course. And make the video clip in Second Life. It's 2-3 minutes.
Oh, you're talking about a music video. I thought you're talking about that sort of, just fly over a sim and show really the best of Second Life. But you're killing two birds with one stone here.
Exactly. And you put it on YouTube, and, every now and then someone who sings a song on YouTube gets a little famous, or a little, or a lot, and they get attention and people watch their videos. And can you imagine what will happen if one of Second Life's artists, and we have so many that are very talented, if one of them actually gets some attention from the press with a video clip they made in Second Life?
It would be good, and I really don't want to discourage people, because I always want to kind of say that you guys start dabbling in machinima, but I have to say, this stuff has to be extremely good, and it's not easy to make machinima that is seamless, and people are extremely spoiled, the viewers, I mean, because the challenges of machinima are such that when compared to digital animation or stuff that you make in Maya and Blender, it's so seamless and the frame rates are so high, and when you film in world, it can be frustrating that some of the stuff is not resing, that the frame rates are low. Ultimately, when we tell stories about our experience, it's awesome, and it really doesn't matter. Just like a film from your vacation, a vacation movie, you don't dissect it based on the lighting and the frame rates. You just enjoy it because you have an experience that is now archived on a 2D format.
Yeah, it has to be good. It has to be good. So if you're a singer but you're not so sure about your machinima talents, or you don't have any, go find a good machinima maker in Second Life. And if you are a good machinima maker in Second Life and you've run out of inspiration, go find a nice artist and ask if you can make a video clip for them.
And for the people who think that I completely discouraged them now by essentially saying you're not good enough, you're not smart enough to do it, I didn't mean to say that, but I would say that if you want to start contributing to changing the perception of Second Life, you could just start by getting a Space Navigator 3D mouse and flying over your favorite sim for a minute and put those out there, little clips of visual beauty. Boom, done.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's where we start.
Everybody has to start at the very beginning, especially people with no talent. Right, Joe?
Yeah. You're starting to sound like a hippie. But, if you want to make something good and commercial, what the entire world is going to watch and be impressed with, bloody go for it.
Exactly. Go for it, because this is our world and this is our imagination.
Exactly.
The Game Developers Conference is happening in San Francisco. Just want to throw this out there, March 2nd to March 6th. We will have audio from Carl Kranz from Silicon Valley Virtual Reality Meetup and editor-in-chief of Road to VR, Ben Lang. We have two people on the ground there, so you don't have to go to the Bay Area, which you shouldn't, because it's full of hippies. Last word before we go, the Drax Files World Makers video series episode number 27, Nylon Pinkney, is out as we go to air today. Yes, Joe.
Yeah.
Drew Carey's biggest idol right there in her real life. Of course, nobody outside the United States knows who comedian and game show host Drew Carey is, but
Did she ever make a portrait of him? Because she makes amazing art. I really like her pictures.
Yeah, that's right. She should really do it.
Yeah, she should make one, even if he hasn't asked her to.
Why are you saying this now? We could have done this in my video series. We could have put a little Drew Carey.
Because I've been dying of cholera.
Right, you can't do that. You need to advise me how to make videos. Otherwise, they turn out to look like shit.
All right, I'll stop dying.
Anyway, go watch this video. Comment on it, share it with the non-believers, and hit us with ideas for upcoming videos. Again, education using Second Life. For Linden Lab, for me, for Joe, you can win a Leap Motion. That's it. That's the show today. Have a great weekend. And thanks everybody for coming to the Res Day party last week. Bye.
Auf Wiedersehen.
I'm not so sure, Joe, if I ever auf Wiedersehen you at this point.
Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley is a weekly production of Basic Drax Entertainment. The show is supported by Maven Homes, Giza Creations, Leap Motion, SL Go by On Live, Stitcher, Ison, Bot Girls Identity Circus, Caravel Design, Vicar Creations, Humanoid Animations, Loki Elliott, Botanical, Death Row Designs, Mad P Games, Angel Red Couture, Fallen Gods Incorporated, Blue Moon Enterprises, What's Next, Avacon, and Landscapes Unlimited. Contact the show via Skype, Drax Files, Avatar Drax Files, or email radio@draxfiles.com.